but that has been my path. It's been what I do every year, and it takes most of December. I start at the beginning of December and finish it up before the new year, and I'm planning out my life. And it's not just my business, and it's not just my team, and it's not just my future, but I'm taking a look and assessing my entire life, and I'm asking myself the big questions. Am I fulfilled? Am I happy? What are the things that make me happy? What are the things that I don't like? Can I get rid of those things? Can I purge those out of my life? I'm in charge of my happiness. I'm in charge of my fulfillment. I'm in charge of deciding what my legacy is going to be that I leave. And so I've got to be the one to assess it. I've got to be the one to look at it and make those decisions. And so this is that time of year where I'm looking at all these things in my life and asking myself the hard questions and coming up with my own answers. Because at this stage of life, at this age, and all of you are in the same wheelhouse, you know, you really have to answer to yourself at the end of the day. And so as I do this and I'm looking at these things, I think a lot about the people also that I'm in life with, not just in business with, but I'm in life with. And I'm asking myself, hey, how are they doing? Where are they going? I'm also asking myself about, the people I spend my time with, and hopefully you do too, because they say you become the average of the 5 people you spend most of your time with. And I don't know who they are, and I don't know if it's 5 or 10 people, and I don't know if it's the average or you could be above average at the top of your group or the bottom of your group, but I know there is a direct relation to the people you're with and spend time with and where you end up in life. And it's important for us to keep raising the bar, keep identifying people who are either have what we want to have, they are where we want to be, they're doing what we want to do, and get ourselves around them more and more and spend time there. And a lot of people don't do that with intention. It's totally accidental, it's circumstance. It's just wherever they happen to land and find themselves, that's where they are with whoever they're with. And I've seen my whole life people who could have been more and accomplished more, they've been held back by the expectations of their peer group. Because when I'm around people that are really accomplished, when I'm around people that are really successful, and I'm around people who act with great intention, it makes me uncomfortable, and it makes me assess myself, and it makes me figure out what the hell I'm doing and how I can step it up and what I could do bigger or more or double check on myself. And and I love those situations, even though they're very uncomfortable. And and so I ask of all of you to ask yourselves, what's that group look like for you? Where do you take the 5 people, 10 people that you've spent the most hours with in the last 30 days, right? And ask yourself who they are. Write their names down. If it's your kids, it's your kids. If it's your pets, it's your pets. I hate to say it. If it's your spouse, it's your spouse. If it's 1 or 2 friends or parents, that's what it is. If it's a couple of your teammates, that's who they are. And then write them all down. And then try to rank yourself amongst those people with who's the most accomplished. Who's the most accomplished? Who has their stuff together the most? Who's got the most direction, the best goals, where they're going, the best work ethic? Rank yourself in that category amongst that group of people. Now, you might have had a brush with a billionaire. You may get on these calls with me once a week and whatever my net worth is or my accomplishment, but we got an hour together on Thursdays. But that's 1 hour. If you spend 1 hour with me and 20 hours a week with your cat, well, your cat goes on the list. I don't go on the list. It's 1 hour. You got to how much time is what you're going to measure. And then ask yourself, is that holding you back from improving? Is that holding you back? Because I do know this. Our kids probably don't have much expectations for us. Just make sure we feed them. Make sure if they need something from us, we're there. But they don't like drive us. They don't have, hey, mom, you're supposed to be here by now, and then you said you were going to be there. Where's your financial report? I'd like to look at your profit loss statement and financials for the last year. Your kids don't do that. So if you're spending all your time with the kids, well, they don't have any expectations for you. A lot of your friends that just are your buddies, man, you love them. They love you no matter what. They love you for the way you are. Well, they ain't going to change you. They aren't going to help you change either. They're going to help you stay the same. So that's why it's important to write this list down and figure out who's pushing you, who's pulling you, who's challenging you to be the better version of yourself. And does that have anything to do with your achievement level? And what are your intentions? I'm constantly remaking that list and reaching for and calling and trying to spend more time with people that either have a higher net worth than me or are more accomplished in a certain area of life than I am. Maybe it's not even business or money. Maybe they run a huge church, right? And I want to get closer to them and figure out how they built this huge church, right? Whatever it is, it's just somebody accomplished. How am I climbing to get around a higher caliber of person so that I can become a higher caliber of person? Well, why do I say all of this? Take a minute, by the way, and write down these names. This is not just a conversation to be had. And I know a lot of you are already into your day. Some people have kids on their laps, and some people they're in their car and they've got their steering wheel in their lap. But I want you to take out a pen and paper and write down these names. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm 99% sure that most of you are at the top of your list. Is that safe to say? Raise your hand if you're at the top of your list or close to the top. You don't have to be number one, but you're in the top 2, 3 of your 10. Okay. So what that means is you're getting the headwind of life. You're getting the headwind, which means you're the one who everyone's waiting on to see what you do next. You're the one that everyone's waiting on to see what moves you make. Someone isn't guiding you probably. You're trying to figure it out. You got all the stress. You burden and shoulder the challenges of your whole life. And you don't have these people that probably have the answers, that have solutions, that have connections, that can open doors and change your whole life this quick. But there are people out there who do it. You understand? Think about somebody. I love this when I go to Africa, but you could do it in a lot of countries. Imagine you go to a very impoverished country and you go to an impoverished town in an impoverished country, and you go find people that have no parents or absentee parents. So you got orphans or close to it in a poor town in a poor country. You know what's amazing? You, with what you know, who you know, and what you have, can take any one of those children and change their entire life, current and future, just like this. You've got the power. You've got the resources. You've got the knowledge. You've got the connections to change that kid's whole entire life like this. And you know what's amazing? Somebody right here within probably a mile of where you're sitting on this call is that much further ahead of you. You're not an orphan and you're not in an impoverished country and stuff, but there's somebody within a couple miles of you right now that could do the same thing for you if they wanted to. Like you'd say, well, I'd have to want to go to that country and want to help that kid. I get it. But you've got that power because you'd be that much further ahead of somebody else in your knowledge, wisdom, and resources than that person. And there's somebody around you and us, me too, that's within miles of where you're sitting right now that could do the same thing in your life. But they aren't going to come find you. You understand? They're not going to come knocking on your door one day and try to find you and help you. You've got to actually find them. You got to reach out to them. I was thinking about that literally just yesterday. I'm going to tell you guys a quick story. So, you guys know I do a little real estate investing, right? Maybe some of you know I do a lot of real estate investing. It's like my pleasure. Some people like scrolling on social media. I like buying big real estate deals and making them and selling them and developing them. It comes down to some of your habits and some of your passions. I love it. It's like a hobby, but it's a deca-million-dollar hobby of mine. And so as I'm doing this, um, Trey Turner is renting office space from this guy who owns a lot of buildings in Alpharetta. The guy's name is Penn Hodge, and that's his landlord over there. And Brian, my brother, was renting space in there, and that was one of our old offices. And then I bought a building where my little all for one office was, and right around the corner there's these three cool buildings right on a busy road. They're not big, they're not super impressive, but they're nice, and they're full, and they're always rented. And his name was on all of those. He owned all those buildings. And then I started driving around town and doing deals, and this guy's name kept popping up: Penn Hodge, Penn Hodge. And it's not a common name, Penn, you know? And I'm like, who is this guy? People that I know him and respect him. And he's supposedly really successful in real estate. I'm trying to get more successful in real estate. I wonder if I can get a lunch with him. So I got my resources and I got his phone number. It was actually, I think, through Trey. Gave me the number to the office where he sends his rent. And then I called that office and I said, I need to talk to Penn directly. I got his number and I called him and I left him a message. And the message went something like this: Penn, you don't know me. My name's Jeff Levitan. I own some real estate in Alpharetta, and I know the same people you know. I know Grant, who I know you're a partner with on this deal. I know this guy, David Chatham. I bought his house. I live in his house. I think you know David. I know a guy named Richard Warnick and some of these people. And man, I just heard great things about you from everybody. No one has a bad thing to say about you. And they say you're quite a accomplished real estate investor. Would you possibly let me take you to lunch sometime? And I left that message because he didn't answer the call. And I'm sure, because I would do this if someone I didn't know left me a message, I'm sure he picked up the phone and called Grant and called David and called Richard and said, who's this guy, Jeff? Is he worth meeting? He called me and wanted to go to lunch with him. I'm sure he did, which is why you have to have good relationships everywhere you go, right? And a good reputation. Well, the guy calls me back. He goes, sure, I'll have a lunch with you. And I said, great. Where do you want to go? He goes, I don't care. It wasn't like, he's not that guy. And I'm like, how about, you know where this place is? He said, yeah. And we had a lunch for an hour and a half. Now, unlike a lot of people that I know, by the way, who'd just be excited to meet somebody, maybe they would have a chance to meet somebody who's their idol, or somebody that is famous, or somebody that's accomplished in their field. Instead of being starstruck or just excited to meet, I didn't care about the food. I didn't want food. I wanted what he knows, and I wanted a relationship with this guy. So I came loaded, locked and loaded. I had about a dozen questions ready to go. Hey man, I heard great things. What got you into real estate in the first place? And I found out he actually had an accounting background first, blah blah blah. But then I asked him, like, what are some mistakes you made? If you can go back 20, 30 years and do it again, what wouldn't you do? What are you most proud of that you accomplished? What's your future look like from here forward now? And so I asked him a dozen questions, and I don't think he's been asked these questions in a long time. It's like he sat down with Barbara Walters or somebody. You know what I mean? That shows how old I am. I guess nowadays it would be Joe Rogan, but it's like he's sitting down for a legit interview. But I wasn't interviewing. It's not like I was interrogating. It was just, I'm good enough at conversationalism to make him feel like it was just a good conversation, And he asked me a couple questions about myself too. And I asked him these great questions, and I thanked him for his time. And I said, hey, if ever, you got a deal or you're looking for a partner in something, I'm always looking, and I don't know if I could play at your level. And I don't know if I don't know what I have to offer, but Who knows? If you ever need me, let me know. Okay. And so we had that conversation and we went our own way. Okay. 2 months later, I get a call from him. I haven't spoke to him once. I probably should have sent him a gift, a real nice thank you gift, but I bought him lunch and that was it. And I didn't send the gift. I probably should have if I can go back again. Um, but I, but 2 months later, he called me and left me this almost cryptic message. Jeff, I might have this big deal. I might want to include you in on it. I'll let you know. And then I texted back, hey, Penn, thanks for the message. Let me know where the deal is and what it is, and I'll start looking at it. Can you give me the address? And it went silent. He did not respond. And he didn't want to give me an address or do anything because it was a big deal and he was working on it. And he didn't want me because he didn't trust me. He didn't want me coming in and stealing the deal or bringing that he didn't trust me. He doesn't really know me. And so he didn't respond. 2 months later, after those 2 months, I get a call from him. And he said, Jeff, I've I've got this deal. And by the way, I'm sorry I didn't call you back 2 months ago. Like he acknowledged it. So I know it wasn't accidental. He goes, we were in the middle of this deal we had been working on for almost a year to buy this building and from a bank, and we had it negotiated down to $15 million. It's a big deal. It's a little bit big. I got that big project going in Canton, and I need capital and maybe a small partner on it. We've got other investors, a lot of other investors. One of them, it's David Chatham. He's a partner in it. And that's the guy whose house I live, that big house at 30 acres that I got. I bought that from David Chatham, who's a big developer. I did the same thing with him 15 years ago. Anyway, this is a long story, but I'm getting to the point, okay? I'm sorry, everybody, to tie you up with this long story. So he's like, we've been working on this building. We got it down to 15 million bucks. I think we can get it for less. The bank wants it off their books by the end of the year. And this was last year, somewhere around October. The bank wants it off their books. So we're putting together, me and one of my partners are going to run it. I'm going to handle leasing. They're going to handle the building. And then we're going to get investors to come on in and pony up the money. I said, I'm interested. I was probably too eager, like, I'm interested. Can I go see the building? He goes, yeah, we'll get you over there. Just know this, that we're in negotiations still with the bank. And there's another bidder from Florida that's also bidding on it cash. So if we want it, we're going to have to step up real soon. So I went to the thing and they needed $1 million from me, right? They said, look, we only got this much. When you get brought into these big real estate consortiums, they have a certain amount they need filled in the deal. And they already had enough money. They just said, we need $1 million from you. And you could be a partner in this building. And I saw the building, and it was this giant building next to Lifetime Fitness. It was 4 stories tall, 170,000 square feet. You all know it as the Vantage headquarters now. And so I'm in this meeting in that building in an empty office. And they said, the reason we're getting it so cheap, this used to be a $40 million building. The reason we're getting it cheap is because of COVID. Everyone moved out. As you could tell, the parking lot's empty and the office is 17% occupied. That means there's 83% of the office space that's empty, and we're going to have to fill it. Are you in? And I said, I'm in. I was just excited for 2 things. One, it was a real estate deal. Number 2, it would be the biggest deal. Not $1 million. I put more than $1 million in something before, but it was the biggest project I've ever been part of. But it was the partnership. Understand, it was Penn and I were going to get into business together, right? And I would get to be with someone who's got way, way more experience. Supposedly, Penn's got $300 million worth of real estate in North Georgia. So he's that level of player, right? So, and he's like in his 60s, mid to late 60s. Really good guy. So I said, I'm in. They showed me all these financials and the pro forma. And I swear to God, I acted like I knew what I was looking at, but I really didn't. It was over my head. I grabbed as much of it as I could and showed it to someone who knows more about this than I do to kind of explain it to me. And I already told them I was in for $1 million. Well, that was October of last year. November came around. They said, look, we're getting closer to making this deal. It's heating up a little bit. It's contentious with the bank and the broker, and they want us to go hard on a certain amount of money right now. And I'm like, how much do you need? And he goes, we're not ready yet. The deal's still da da da. December comes, beginning of December. These big things don't happen fast. They really don't. So December comes. He goes, look, here's where we're at. Jeff, some of the other investors have fallen out, and we're not going to go ahead with the project. We're going to let it go to these guys in Florida. We've negotiated the building down. By the way, it was down from 15 where they were a year earlier. They had gotten it down under 10. Okay, they were under 10 million. They were 8 point something on 170,000 square foot of office space on 10 acres of commercial property. Without getting into it too much, it's a valuable asset. And I envisioned, when I was with them the first time in November, I envisioned having a Vantage office in this building and having a parking space and maybe having the name on the building someday. And I thought, this is like the biggest move of my life. I'm not trying to flex, but this is going to be a flex, right? Like, man, this is going to be a jumbo flex. And so I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, well, how many people dropped out? And they said a couple of the big investors. We got the small ones, but we would need to make up $6 million, and we need it in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And I'm like, don't let it go yet. I said, let me see what I can do. And I went and I called one of my VUL companies, because my old stuff is VULs, my new stuff's IULs. And I called them and saw how much cash I had. And I had $4+ million in my policy, loanable cash. And then I had an E-Trade account with over $2 million in it. I had sold my Costa Rica home, which some of you have been to, for $5.4 million earlier in the year. And I had a partner on it, and I got some. I have a few $1 million from that. And I'm like, I could do it, but I'd be all in. I'm pushing all my chips into the middle of this table. And I'm like, do I want to go all in on this thing? Like, I don't know. And I was scared to death. Let me tell you guys, even at my level, you still get scared because it's the next level. The next level is always scary. A lot of people, how many of you have heard before of the term afraid of success? Oh man, so the people they're afraid of success. It's not success they're afraid of. Let me just clarify this. I've done a little research. People aren't afraid of success. They're afraid of change. That's what they're afraid of. And success is a form of change, like living at a new level, there's studies of prisoners that have been incarcerated for 30 years. They get out of prison and they want to go back in. They want to go in because they're so comfortable. And it's uncomfortable outside in the free world. It's very comfortable. Even though it's dangerous, they know when everything is, who everyone is, what's going on. They got it under wraps. Outside is dangerous. So if you think about that mentality, people hate change that much, even if it means wealth and success. That's where the fear comes from. They're not afraid of success. They're afraid of massive change and the unknown. The unknown is what people are afraid of. And I would venture to say many of you and many of the people you coach are afraid of their unknown future. They want to be rich. They want to be famous. But why aren't they getting there faster? And you might say, well, life's tough and the business is tough. No, it's not. There's something internal, like a governor on a car, that slows it down and only lets it go to a certain level. Many people have that internal governor. Some people use a thermostat analogy, where once you get up there and you're ready to break through and go to the next level, something happens, and it's usually it's usually sabotage, and it brings you back down. And you don't go to that next level. You don't pull the trigger. You don't do it. You get almost there. You could have done it, but the unknown scares the bejesus out of you, and you don't do it, and you pull back. All right. So this is what happens, a lot of times to people. So I say that because I know that's happened to a lot of you. And I know that I was feeling those feelings at this moment, but I also understood I'm going to die someday, and I want to explore the unknown. I want to explore the unknown future for Jeff Levitan. I want to explore what's possible. And this is just one test along the way, is doing my biggest deal ever. By putting 6 million in, it was my biggest real estate deal ever also. And so I called them back and I said, look, I think I'm going to do it. And they said, do what? I said, I think I'm going to take all the unused portion of this deal and pony up. And they said, you are? And this is like these Penn and these other guys. But even though what you'll find about real estate investors and developers is they're usually cash poor. They're usually asset rich. They're worth millions and millions, but they can't put their hands on a few $100,000 because they take all the money they make and roll it into the next property. They roll it into the next deal. They keep their money on the move. They don't hold on to a lot. So someone to have, you know, 6, 7, 8, 9, $10 million cash, or that they can get their hands on in a couple of weeks, blows them away because they can't, right? Even though they're super rich. And I'm like, all right, I'm in, I'm going to do it. And they said, you know, we got to go hard on 250 grand tomorrow to save the deal. I'm like, tomorrow? And yeah, and it's not refundable. So we're going to put in our offer with 250 hard, and that will keep us in first position. And if we get the property, well, then we got to actually close on it in the following week and a half before the year ends, so the bank can get it off their books because it's a non-performing asset. I said, I'm going to wire the money right now. And I stepped up and I did it. Scared to death. This was last December, you guys. I swear to God, it's literally 1 year probably to the day. If I look at the closing papers, I mean, we're within a day or two of this happened 1 year ago. And here's the amazing thing. Here's what came of this, okay? Still scared, don't know what I'm doing. Here we go. Let's go see what happens. And so we do the deal, and I got the right team. Penn's the right guy, and he introduced me to this guy, Jim, who runs the whole building and has many buildings like this that he's ran and improved. With the wisdom that Penn had, we underpriced the entire market substantially. We gave somebody a free month rent for every year of the lease they signed. And 1 year later, we took it from 17% to over 80. Now, what does that mean in real estate? What that means is the value of the building has more than tripled in 1 year. The building's still the building. The square footage is the square footage. Yes, we fixed up office space and built out stuff for tenants, so it's nicer inside, but the value went up triple because of the leases. And I couldn't have leased that space up. I wouldn't know what I'm doing, but Penn is an expert at that. And now that building is probably worth $30+ million, and I'm the majority owner of it. I don't own the whole thing, but I'm the majority owner in it, maybe 70% of the biggest investment I ever did. And I hit a triple, like a 3x in 1 year. And if we keep going, it'll go up again in a year, another 25% if we get that thing close to 100% leased up. And then when the actual real estate market in that sector, which is office space, rebounds, because it's depressed, it's the worst asset class in real estate right now is office space, but it will come back. You know, every corporation is talking about demanding people get back into the office, and that the work from home stuff is not as effective. So as people come back and office space becomes more of a premium, it's going to go up again. And none of that would have happened if I didn't, a year earlier, 2 years earlier, make that call and find Penn so I can meet him. Do you understand? So me increasing who I met, and I thought about that because yesterday I got a Christmas tin full of pecans and nuts and stuff from Penn. Penn sent me a Christmas present to my house. And it was amazing to think about this whole story in my mind again and where it took me. So my point is, are you reaching out, and who are you reaching out to? You understand? Who are you expanding your market with? How are you pushing yourself? How are you going into that unknown and reaching and stretching and taking yourself to the next level. When you see people, you guys a lot, by the way, and I think about you all the time. I think about where you are in this business. I think about where you are in the success in your life. I do. My conversation is, what's it going to take to get you further? What's it going to take to get you really big? Or are you always going to be a low to mid-level player? Are you always going to be a 100 to 200, $300,000 person? Which nothing's wrong with that. I'm not criticizing it. My last business had thousands and thousands of those people, and that's what made it a great business. But it had a much smaller percentage of people that were climbers, people that were going to the next level, people that were stretching themselves, people that wanted, that needed, not just wanted. Everyone wants more, but they needed more. They needed to be bigger. They needed to climb the ladder. They needed to hit these goals. Those, that obsessed group was a way smaller percentage, right? And that's normal. But I would say it comes down to two factors. And your ascension in this company and in life, your ascension is going to come down to two things. And you're going to want to write these two things down. You're going to hear me talk about this a lot this year, because I think that's the value I can provide to people, is to get them to look at themselves. A hard one. These are two things that are simple, but it's hard to master in your life. One of them we already talked about a lot today. It's your self-identity. You know, are you a high identity person, a middle high identity, a middle? Are you a low identity or low to mid identity? What does that mean? That means this: when no one's watching, when no one's around to impress, when you're by yourself, looking in the mirror, it's you and that mirror in front of you. What do you believe about yourself? What do you really believe about yourself? Do you believe you're worth being followed by high level people? Do you believe that you're worth rich people giving you their millions of dollars to invest? Do you believe that you should be listened to by people? That they should stop what they're doing and make their appointment with you or make their phone call with you? Do you believe they should come to you for their appointment, or do you believe you need to go to them? That has to do with your mentality, by the way, of who's higher up. Does Muhammad go to the mountain, or the mountain come to Muhammad? You know, you got to figure out which it is for you. But that has to do with your identity. You understand? All of this does. Do you believe people should serve you and take care of you and further you? Or do you believe you're there to just, serve other people? Do you believe you're deserving of great wealth? Great wealth. Do you believe you deserve tremendous vacations and a legacy? You know what I mean? You got to ask yourself that. Do you believe that you deserve to eat great food at great restaurants and wear nice clothing and drive nice cars? You might say, well, that's not important to me, Jeff. Well, that's fine. Whatever is important to you, do you believe you deserve the best of it? Or do you believe you deserve a little bit lesser, or somewhere in the middle somewhere? Like, how you see you is everything. And let me tell you about the people that you know their names. They were from my former company. And the ones that are decamillionaires and the ones that have built 7- and 8-figure incomes, all of them to the person, had this swagger and belief way before it showed up in money. They believed they were going somewhere. They believed they were somebody. They believed that people should bend a knee and the world should bend around their goals and priorities. They really believed it. And when I met some of these people, I don't know where my identity was, because I was a 24-year-old kid and 25, 6, 7 coming up. And although I was growing in that, I didn't have super high self-esteem. I wasn't super cocky. And when I met them, I thought that that's what it was. I'm like, these people are so cocky. Who do they think they are? You know, you do the neck thing. Who do they think they are with all that? And what I realized was, they, in their mind's eye, up here in their head, they absolutely believed that they were something special. and they were more special than most everybody, and that everything they were doing, everyone should follow them, everyone should buy from them, everybody should listen to them. In every conversation, they were right, everyone else wasn't. And it's crazy. It was a little unbearable to be around, but I watched, and sure enough, all of them made it. All of them grew their life right into their self-identity and made it there. And I absolutely know for a fact that all my other friends that have been with me in life and business for years, that make 50, 100, 250, 3, 4, 500, they are doing the exact same thing. They're living into their self-identity, and that's where they're going. And it doesn't have to do with the world outside. It doesn't have to do with their relationships, their health, the government, the IRS, the this, the that, the company, this, any of that stuff. It really has to do with their internal thermostat and that internal governor that keeps stopping them their whole dang life. And I thought maybe it's an immature thing for kids or young adults. It's not. It's not. I've met people in their 70s and 80s. Same thing. That internal thing is ageless. It's timeless. It overrides everything. Your belief about who you are is only everything. So your self-identity is one of the most important keys determining your life and your future. And you might say, well, Jeff, how do I increase that? How do I work on that? Well, it's a lot of self-work. No one outside is going to do it. It's going to be your belief system inside of you that needs to change. Whether it's your faith, you're judging yourself on your intentions, that you're trying to do great things and you need resources to be able to do it. It's a belief system thing. And a lot of it does have to do with the people you're around who are way more accomplished than you, that you don't see many differences in. The magic and the key is, like if I hung out with Elon Musk tomorrow, let's say I went with him to one of his companies, SpaceX and all the stuff, I'd be like, the guy's a genius, I'm not. He's brilliant, I'm not. He's the richest man in the world, I'll never be. He's so amazing and I'm nothing like him. That's not a good guy for me to hang out with. Although he'd blow me away, I don't think I'm like him. I need to find someone that I can identify with, that I think, this person's a lot like me. They're a little different in a couple ways, but look, they're a lot like me and they are worth $1 billion, $5 billion, $2 billion. They sold their business for $500 million. And I got a business like that. How do I get my business to sell for $500 million? Why is this company growing like this and mine's not? We're in the same industry. I need to look at people that are way more similar that are way more accomplished. You understand? And I think that's one of the ways you do it. Because then you start looking at them, you're like, hey, if they could do it, I could do it. And you got to really believe it. It's not words. It's not words. It's belief. It's what's unsaid, where you're like, if they could do it, I can do it. And then secondly, this is the other thing that everything rides on. It's your personal habits. It's your self-identity and your personal habits. There are people that have a pretty healthy ego, but horrible habits. And it never comes to fruition because their habits don't align with their identity. You have to both have the identity and then good enough habits to make your identity come true. And those habits usually have a lot to do with one word, or maybe two words: self-discipline. It's your disciplines that do it. It's your discipline. And if you've got good habits and self-discipline and a high identity, you're going to win. Man, are you going to win. You're going to win so big that everyone around you is going to be so impressed. They're going to want you to sign something for them, take a picture with them, kiss their baby. I don't know. It's going to be great, like literally. And you're going to you're going to do it because your identity is big enough to go, you know what? I'm kissing this baby and the baby's going to be better off because I kissed it. It's going to have a better future, and I'm going to sign this because it's going to be worth something someday. You better save this napkin that I just signed. It's going to be worth something. And you got to really believe it. And that's why you're going to do it because your identity is going to be such where your story is going to be worth telling third person someday. And so you're going to do it. So it's those habits and discipline with your identity. And that's going to be the key to you getting to where you want to be in life. And that's the thing that I think holds everybody back. So I am going to leave you with that today, everybody. All right. There's nothing I could add to this, but you got to do some self-assessing right now. You got to start looking at yourself and asking yourself the hard questions. Well, how do I see me? What do I think about my future and where I'm going? And then do something about it. All right. God bless everybody. Good having you today. Sorry I did all the talking, but I had that on my heart. I wanted to share it. And I want to wish you all the best. I will be there cheering you on all the way up the ladder of your success. I'm not going to do it for you. And I can't help you. If you don't have the identity and the habits, there's no helping you. You understand? Nobody is going to help you. It ain't going to help. You've got to do it. But when you do it, and as you do it, I'll be right there along the way, every step up that ladder. So I'm in your corner. All right. Take care, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Take care.
Thanks, Jeff.